Why are the lights doing that?
I don't know, just keep driving.
The tunnel should have been empty. It was past midnight, deep winter, the kind where cold feels alive, biting, watching. Snow had swallowed the mountains hours ago, and the road signs were buried like gravestones. Only the tunnel remained, a long concrete throat carved through the rock, breathing out mist as if the earth itself were exhaling. I slowed the car before entering. Not because of fear, because of the silence. No wind, no animals. Even the snow had stopped falling, frozen mid-decision. My headlights stretched forward and disappeared into blackness, swallowed whole. The tunnel lights were on, but dim, flickering, uneven. Some burned white, others glowed sickly yellow. A few were dead entirely. Halfway in, the radio cut out. Not static, just absence. Then I heard it. A sound too soft to be mechanical, too slow to be wind. Footsteps. They echoed from somewhere ahead, dragging slightly, as if whoever walked was tired or hurt. I lifted my foot from the accelerator. The car rolled forward on its own, tires whispering against damp concrete. "Hello," I said, my voice small, wrong. The footsteps stopped. For a moment nothing happened. Then a shape appeared at the far end of the headlights, standing where the tunnel bent out of sight. Human-sized. Still. Facing me. I blinked. It was closer. I hadn't seen it move. My breath fogged the windshield as the figure raised its head. The face was wrong, blurred like frost on glass, but the mouth opened anyway. And it whispered my name. The tunnel lights went out all at once. Behind me, the entrance sealed shut. When the lights came back on, I was alone. The tunnel reappeared in fragments. Flickering bulbs, damp walls, the thin white line down the center of the road. My headlights were still on. The engine was still running. The entrance behind me was open again, a perfect oval of snowy night. I sat there longer than I should have, hands locked around the steering wheel, heart hammering so hard it blurred my vision. I told myself what everyone tells themselves after fear loosens its grip. Hallucination. Fatigue. Cold playing tricks. But my name still felt warm in my ears, as if something had spoken it from very close by. I drove out without looking back. I didn't plan on telling anyone. By morning, the world had softened. Snow glazed the roofs of the town like sugar. Cars moved. People talked. The tunnel became just another piece of infrastructure. Old, inconvenient, unavoidable. I repeated the story in my head until it sounded smaller, thinner. Footsteps became imagination. The voice became wind. That almost worked. Almost. At the gas station, the attendant stared at me too long. "You come through the tunnel last night?" he asked, not casually. Not curious. Careful. I hesitated. "Yeah." "Why?" He looked past me, toward the mountains. The pump clicked. He didn't answer right away. "Car breakdown," he said instead. "No." "Stop inside." "No." A pause. Then softer. "Good." Something in his voice closed a door I hadn't realized was open. The tunnel had a name, but nobody used it anymore. On maps it was labeled Winter Pass Tunnel. Locals called it the Throat. Older ones, the ones who'd lived here long enough to watch winters bury memories, had another word for it. They just said, "Don't." I learned that over the next few days, in glances and half-finished sentences, in conversations that ended too early, in warnings disguised as jokes. "You hear things in there," a mechanic told me, laughing too hard. "Cell service dies," said a waitress, crossing herself. "People slow down," said a trucker. They shouldn't. Nobody said ghost. Nobody said dead. But everyone agreed on one thing. The tunnel remembered. I didn't sleep well after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the way the figure hadn't moved, how distance had folded in on itself without sound. I dreamed of mouths opening without faces, of lights dying all at once. On the third night, I woke to footsteps outside my apartment door. Slow. Dragging. I lay frozen, listening. The building was old, but not that old. No one walked like that. The sound stopped directly in front of my door. I waited for a knock. None came. When I finally looked through the peephole, the hallway was empty, but the carpet just outside my door was wet, as if snow had melted there. I didn't own boots. I started researching. Old town records, archived newspapers, forums half abandoned by users who never logged back in. Patterns emerged, not clean ones, not satisfying ones. Accidents, disappearances, vehicles found abandoned inside the tunnel with doors open, engines cold. One article stopped me cold. Winterpass incident. 1996 tunnel closed for 3 days following structural concerns. No mention of deaths. No follow-up. Just a photograph beneath the headline. Grainy, overexposed. Workers standing at the tunnel mouth. Snow piled high around them. And something else. In the background, deep inside the tunnel, a shadow stood where no person should have been. Facing the camera. I showed the photo to Mrs. Klein, my downstairs neighbor. She'd lived here since before the tunnel was built. Her hands trembled when she saw it. They sealed it, she said. Not with concrete. With people. What does that mean? She shook her head, eyes wet. You shouldn't have driven through. Something spoke to me, I said. It knew my name. That was when her fear turned sharp. It always does, she whispered. Silence stretched between us. Thick and heavy. Then she said the one sentence that broke whatever safety I still believed in. You weren't the first. The next time I passed the tunnel, it was closed. Yellow tape fluttered at the entrance. A sign read temporary maintenance. Snow drifted lazily across the road. Innocent as ash. I should have felt relief. Instead, my phone vibrated. No signal. No bars. Just a single notification. Unknown call, voicemail 1. I didn't remember missing a call. I pressed play. At first, there was only breathing. Slow. Familiar. Then the sound of footsteps, echoing softly. And finally, a voice. Close, intimate, smiling through frost. Come back, it said. We didn't finish. The voicemail ended. Behind the tape, deep inside the tunnel, one light flickered on. Just one. Waiting. The voicemail did not delete. I tried. 3 times. Each attempt ended the same way. The screen freezing, the phone growing warm in my hand, the battery draining in seconds. When the device finally shut down, the silence felt staged, like something stepping back into the dark to watch. That night, the tunnel came to me. Not in dreams. In memory. I sat at my kitchen table with the lights on, coffee untouched, replaying the sound of those footsteps. I mapped them in my head. How far apart, how uneven. A limp, or something dragging something else. I realized then that the sound hadn't echoed naturally. It had followed me, adjusted its pace to mine, like it was learning. I went to the town library the next morning. It smelled of dust and heating vents. Safe, human smells. Mrs. Adler, the librarian, glanced up when I entered. Her smile flickered when she saw my face. You went through the tunnel, she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. She closed the book she was holding. You should leave town. Why? A long pause. Then, very quietly, because it notices movement. She led me to the archives. The records weren't hidden. They were buried under normalcy. Filed, labeled, stripped of emotion. Accidents. Weather damage. Budget overruns. But once you lined the dates up, a rhythm appeared. Every winter. Every heavy snowfall. Every closure. People vanished. Not tourists. Locals. Workers. Drivers who knew the road by heart. Vehicles were recovered sometimes. People weren't. And when bodies did turn up, it was never inside the tunnel. They were found miles away. Frozen. Kneeling. Facing the mountains. There was a collapse, Mrs. Adler said, pointing to a faded blueprint. During construction. I leaned closer. The tunnel was older than I thought. Much older. They never reported it properly, she continued. Too expensive to stop. Too dangerous to dig back in. So they sealed the section and kept going. Sealed how? She didn't answer. Just slid a photograph toward me. It showed men standing shoulder to shoulder inside the tunnel. Helmets. Lanterns. Their faces blurred by motion. Behind them hands. Pressed into wet concrete. Too many. Not imprints. Struggles. That night, my apartment felt narrower. The walls seemed to lean inward, listening. Every creak of the building made my breath catch. I checked the door twice. Then 3 times. At 2:17 a.m., my phone turned on by itself. No ringtone. No vibration. The screen lit up with a video. It was the tunnel. Not recorded footage. Not grainy. It was live. I knew because the lights flickered exactly as I remembered. Because the camera angle was wrong. Too low, too close to the ground. Moving. Footsteps echoed softly through the speaker. I whispered, "Stop." The footsteps stopped. The camera lifted. Something leaned into view, its face unfinished, like it had never been taught how to be human properly. Its mouth stretched, testing the shape of a smile. "We're cold," it said. "You opened the way." The video ended. My front door creaked. I didn't open it. I backed away slowly, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The handle turned anyway, just enough to rattle to promise. Then a knock. Once. Twice. A pause. My name, whispered through the wood. I don't remember screaming. I remember the sudden certainty that the door would not protect me. That walls were suggestions. That the tunnel did not end at concrete. I fled. I drove until the roads thinned and the snow deepened. The mountains rose like watching giants. My phone stayed dark. The radio hissed uselessly. When I reached the overlook above the tunnel, I stopped. From there, you could see the mouth carved into the rock, a black oval breathing fog. The maintenance tape was gone. The sign lay face down in the snow. The tunnel was open. Lights burned inside. All of them. I heard engines behind me. Trucks. Cars. Locals. They parked without speaking. Faces pale. Eyes hollow. An old man stepped forward. His voice shook. "It's active," he said. "It's hungry." A woman sobbed. "We sealed it. We fed it. What does it want?" I asked. The old man looked at me. "Witnesses," he said. "So it can remember." They told me the truth then. All of it. The tunnel wasn't haunted. It was occupied. The men sealed inside hadn't died quickly. The collapse trapped them in darkness, cold and time. Weeks passed. Food ran out. Hope rotted. And something else, something older than the mountain, listened. It offered warmth. Not escape. Continuation. The workers accepted. Their bodies failed, but their need did not. The tunnel learned them. Learned their voices. Learned how to call people back. Winter after winter, it thinned the walls. Until I drove through. Snow began to fall harder. The wind howled, loud enough to drown thought. Inside the tunnel something shifted. Lights flickered in sequence, like a heartbeat. Footsteps multiplied. Whispers layered over one another. Overlapping, practicing speech. My phone buzzed. One final message. "We remember you now." The ground trembled. From deep inside the tunnel, something started walking toward the exit. And it was not alone. I didn't have a plan. Not really. Just instinct and panic, the way you grab at air when it feels like the walls are closing in. The tunnel loomed ahead, a black maw in the snowstorm. My headlights pierced only a few feet. Beyond that, it was infinite dark, breathing, alive. I could hear it now, not footsteps but hundreds of voices, low and overlapping, whispering my name, mocking, begging, demanding. I stepped inside. Snow clung to the edges of the concrete, melting and dripping in warm, sticky rivulets. The air was heavy, metallic, like the inside of a buried coffin. I could see shadows moving along the walls, stretching impossibly long, sometimes leaning toward me, sometimes recoiling. They didn't belong to anything human. A light flickered far ahead. I ran toward it, irrationally, desperately, my boots slipping on frozen puddles. The closer I got, the more the tunnel seemed to stretch. It was wider, longer, taller than it had been from outside. My lungs burned from cold and panic. Then I saw it. The figure from that first night. Only now it was many, hundreds, maybe thousands, pressed into the tunnel walls. Faces half-formed, mouths smiling where eyes should be, hands reaching, twisting, stretching as if the walls themselves were crawling with people. The original shadow stepped forward, and its mouth opened wide, not to scream but to speak. You came back. I stumbled backward, my boots scraping ice. The shadows converged. They whispered, each voice layered over the next, repeating my name, calling secrets I had never spoken aloud. The air trembled. The concrete underfoot groaned. I realized too late that the tunnel didn't just remember. It consumed. It fed. Doors appeared along the tunnel walls. Rusted, warped. I tried one. It led into darkness thicker than black. Another. I could hear movement beyond, shuffling, whispering. Each one seemed alive. Each one promised the same thing. You will not leave. I ran. The figures multiplied. The tunnel bent in impossible ways. Every turn brought me back to the same center, the same open space where the first shadow waited. Its face had changed. Now human, now animal, now blank and staring. Its mouth opened, and this time it laughed. A sound that twisted and cracked like ice breaking. A sudden pull at my ankle made me fall. I hit the ground hard. When I looked up, the floor had changed. Cracks appeared in the concrete, and hands burst out, dragging at me, claws biting into fabric, flesh, or something like it. I screamed. Not just my voice, but the tunnel itself screamed, the echoes bouncing infinitely off walls that weren't walls anymore. I crawled. My vision blurred. Behind me, the shadows grew taller, merging into one massive shape, a wave of faces and limbs, a tide of hunger. It spoke without sound now, its intention clear in my chest, in my lungs, in the beating of my heart. You belong. I reached the far end, or what I thought was the far end. The exit glowed dimly, a faint rectangle of orange snowlight. I lunged. The shadows lashed, pulling at me, stretching impossibly, faster than I could move. Fingers tore at my jacket, my arms, scraping flesh I couldn't feel yet. I stumbled outside. Cold slammed me like a physical blow. Snow whipped across my face. The tunnel behind me pulsed, alive, black against the mountains. I fell to my knees, gasping, bleeding from scratches I couldn't account for. Then I realized it wasn't over. I turned back. The tunnel mouth had shifted. Wider, taller, endless. And the lights inside were blinking, beckoning, calling. From deep within, hundreds of voices whispered, "Come back. We're waiting." And in the snow I could see footprints forming. Not mine. Not yet. But they led directly into the tunnel. Something touched my shoulder. I spun around. Empty air. But the cold handprint remained. The wind carried a single whisper across the mountains. You can't leave. Not now. Not ever. The shadows inside the tunnel stirred. And I ran, knowing the tunnel would never let me go. The snow melted slowly over the next few days, but it felt like a lie. The world looked the same, yet nothing did. I drove through town cautiously, eyes darting to every corner, every shadow. People were there, walking, talking, living, but their movements were strange, hesitant, as if the air itself carried warnings they could not articulate. I returned to my apartment. It was untouched. Yet everything inside felt different. The furniture slightly shifted, dust layered in unnatural patterns, the air heavier than it should be. I tried to sleep, but the night came with its own rhythm. Whispers seeping from the walls, soft footsteps pacing the length of the hallway. doors that creaked without wind. I called Mrs. Klein. No answer. The line went dead mid-sentence. I checked the local numbers I had memorized. Neighbors, the gas station attendant, the mechanic who had warned me. No one answered. Phones went dead, just like the first night. It became clear. The tunnel had not stayed behind. It had followed. Its presence lingered in small, tangible ways. Cold spots in rooms where none should exist. Shadows that moved against the light. Soft murmurs calling names, promising warmth, offering continuation. I left town the following morning, driving aimlessly. Roads curved and twisted strangely under snowfall that shouldn't exist, and every town I passed was empty. Shops locked, cars abandoned, footprints leading nowhere. The world itself seemed stretched thin, fragile. I realized then that the tunnel's reach had expanded. It didn't need walls or concrete to exist. It carried the essence of those it had consumed, and it was patient. At night I still hear it. From the corner of a street, a whisper. From the attic, a faint scraping. My phone buzzes sometimes, displaying unknown calls, voicemails, images of tunnels I have never seen. Always one figure waiting, watching, calling. The memories are permanent. The shadows, the hands, the faces pressed into concrete. They linger in reflections, in darkened windows, in the spaces between thought. I am changed. Hollowed. Always listening. Always afraid. The last time I checked, my reflection in the mirror didn't move immediately with me. For a moment it smiled on its own. And in that smile I understood fully. The tunnel is endless. It remembers everyone who enters. And now it remembers me. I cannot leave. Not really. Not ever. Outside, the snow falls silently, covering the world in white. But beneath it, the tunnel waits. And something whispers my name. It is patient. It is inevitable. And it will never forget.